What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tarzan's Treehouse. My name is Joey, and today I'm joined by a new member. So say what's up.
Hey, what's up? I'm Ethan Fowler, and I'm just excited to be on here today.
All right, and with that, let's just jump into it. Before we started recording, we were talking about the new trailer for the new Spider-Man movie coming out, No Way Home. And I know you've seen it, so what were your first thoughts after you first saw it?
Okay, so actually, a little background before I saw it. I have a really good friend, and we were lifeguarding together. And she brought it up. She was like, "Yo, have you ever seen the new trailer for Spider-Man?" And I was like, "Nah." And then she showed it to me, and I was out here, like, and taking my break from lifeguarding. I was just like, jaw drop moment, like seeing all of it together. And like before you can even start talking about the trailer, you need to, if you haven't already, watch WandaVision and Loki, because that's going to tie so much, and Doctor Strange, into this
Yeah.
like universe that they're creating. So yeah, you want to start out with your impressions of like the beginning and how like it changed and went throughout.
Of the trailer or of the show?
Yeah, of well, both. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of the trailer was cool. It kind of showed him like, because the first scene is him and MJ on the roof, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool, getting the whole like the mini backlash of it, and then it slowly built up to where there's like riots wherever he goes, and then
Yeah, that is crazy.
yeah,
And like how he's not even able to like all these people have so much like faith into Mysterio and what
yeah,
he did, even though we all know from the audience outside perspective that he's a total fraud, and how like one video can change like a whole person's life. And that's what it
exactly.
was shown at the beginning of the trailer.
Yeah, I honestly completely forgot that Mysterio was the good guy after that movie ended until I saw this trailer again, because it's been like what, 2 years since that movie came out or something.
Yeah, it's
But
been a
yeah,
while.
yeah, and then they replayed that whole part, and it's cool to see that kind of realistic backlash or something like that. And then I knew that the whole like multiverse thing they've been setting up was gonna be in this movie, obviously, with all the rumors. But
Yeah.
I did not know it was gonna start with Peter going to Strange and just saying, "Rewind everyone's memory, please." Like,
I
I
know,
didn't
that
that
was crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
when it tied to that, and I saw Doctor Strange, I was like, "Holy cow!" Like that just switched my whole entire perspective of how Spider-Man was gonna go. And
hmm,
with like all the end of the last movie, when you saw that almost all the Avengers were off of Earth or not there, so Doctor Strange still being there and like helping him out, or at least trying to. And then what happens after that?
right. But yeah, the fight scenes look pretty crazy in the trailer too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one on the
And
train.
okay, we gotta talk about the recasting and all the people that showed up at the end.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was crazy. Okay, so
yeah.
that's like the most mind blowing part.
Hmm.
If you haven't seen the trailer yet, pause this and like watch it right now, and
Yeah, yeah.
because it's major spoilers.
That's true. Yeah, we'll give him a second, but then yeah, I mean, yeah, you can go ahead with it. I mean,
Okay, so for me personally, I don't memorize a lot of actors and actresses' names, but like
mhm.
the original Doc Ock, I forget which one is either, was it from the Tobey Maguire?
Yeah, it was from Spider-Man 2, the one in the early
Yeah,
2000s. Yeah,
exactly. So he's like recasted, and um, oh, I just had a mind blank. Who were the other ones?
the Green Goblin bomb showed up on the highway scene.
Oh yeah, the Green
Yeah,
Goblin bomb. And I'm okay. I'm pretty sure that Miles Morales is going to be in the movie too. From
really.
yeah, it's just a theory I have, because if
Hmm.
they're tying all this together, and you saw with the Miles Morales movie how it's all about the different Marvel, or at least Spider-Man universes colliding,
Hmm.
and then with like Spider-Verse. So I'm 90% sure he's going to be in there at some point.
That would be pretty sick, especially because Prowler is technically in the MCU.
Yeah.
He had that one scene in the first Spider. He wasn't like in the suit or anything. He was just a guy in the parking lot. But he said like,
Oh
well,
really?
yeah, he just said the whole name and everything. He said, "I have a nephew in this neighborhood." So
Oh yeah, that's gonna be
yeah,
super dope.
yeah, that'd be really cool if he shows up, even if like right at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At least we have like some of more of the Spider-Verse mixing.
Hmm.
And yeah, we'll see how it does with Disney though.
Yeah.
Disney and Sony right now with Spider-Man. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but it seems like it's mixing well so far with them having Doctor Strange on it, because it seems like with the last two movies they've been not trying to keep it exactly separate from the other Marvel movies, but like this, if it meshes with a lot more, then it's gonna be really cool. And like having Wanda
Yeah.
as there, like in there, and like helping Doctor Strange or going against it, and
Yeah.
yeah, all this stuff.
Yeah. I think because this movie, the ending is obviously going to be crazy with the different multiverses and stuff, but and then the Doctor Strange sequel, it's straight up called the Multiverse of Madness. So that's
Oh
going to
yeah,
be even more. And Wanda might be the main villain in that,
yeah.
which that'd be like another level. That'd be
Exactly.
crazy.
It's
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
huh?
No,
No,
go ahead.
you go.
All right. Speaking of villains, like the almost consensus right now is this new Spider-Man movie is going to have some form of the Sinister Six. So we know Doc Ock, obviously. We're like 99% sure that was the Green Goblin pumpkin bomb. Who else would you want to be in that six? There's been rumors of Sandman, Electro, the Lizard, Vulture, Scorpion, a bunch of people.
um, well, for me personally, definitely Sandman,
Mhm.
because it's Sandman and Venom. Like I know that like with Venom and how that series has gone, it's like the anti-hero and how he's
Yeah.
became like this like crazy
Yeah.
like powerful force, but he still does good, but just in a bad way, you know. So
Right.
that's strong and like anti-hero. But I would totally love to see Venom back in Sandman, because those two for me were always classics, because I watched the movies before I read the comics. So like I just have that connection, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that for sure. Like that was Spider-Man 3 that they were both in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the first one I watched also when I was younger, or at least the one I remember the most.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So it's just like a huge connection with that.
Hmm. I think the Lizard could be really cool, especially because if they're doing like the whole all three Spider-Mans are coming, the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, the Lizard was the villain there. And
Oh yeah,
he looked really weird, but he was cool. So,
exactly.
with improved CGI and stuff, I'm sure he could look really cool too.
Yeah, and I think with CGI, like you with what was that movie that just came out recently? Is Godzilla and
Oh, Godzilla versus Kong?
yeah, and
Yeah.
like you just that is like a powerhouse CGI film and showing
Yeah.
like what CGI could do, and it looked amazing the whole entire time.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
just like wow, like yeah. So being able to capture all this, uh, they have so much elbow room in
Mhm.
creating this like huge story with all these different lines and like yeah people coming in and like and the question for me is are these villains going to work together, are they all going to be fighting each other, are they going to team up on Spider-Man, or are they going to try to help Spider-Man? Like so there's so much open like unanswered space here right now that we can only speculate what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's one shot in the trailer where it looks like yellow lightning is striking like a big dune of sand, and people are theorizing that Sandman is protecting Spider-Man from Electro in that scene. So yeah, that goes exactly what you're saying. Like, no, especially if they're all from different universes, like they're not gonna immediately team up and just attack Spider-Man. Like there's gonna be in
Exactly.
between stuff. Yeah.
And like, what point did they come in from their universe? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So is it like right before when Sandman is still like when he turned over and helped against Venom, and
Mhm.
yeah, so all this stuff just coming together and seeing how it's gonna like how Marvel is gonna control that mesh is gonna be
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, I keep seeing this stuff online about how are they going to explain how Doc Ock didn't die. Well, they don't really have to. I
Hmm.
mean, they could just say like, oh, it broke from a universe where he didn't actually die. Like it's
Yeah,
in that universe, but it's a separate timeline where he won or didn't lose at least.
exactly, and that
Yeah.
kind of ties right back into Loki and the
Exactly.
multiverse, and
Yeah.
how legit there's all these different variations of people
Mhm.
who like, oh, Loki actually killed Thanos and he became and killed
Yeah.
Thor and that kid, and how they're all like
Yeah.
crazy powerful. And yeah, they are just all these variations. So they could do whatever they want at this point.
Yeah. Because I think it was Doc Ock. It might have been Green Goblin. My memory with these movies are kind of mixed up, but one of them straight
Mhm.
up like fell off of a building into an explosion. So it's kind of hard to explain that away, but you don't really have to with the way Loki set stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, even with Disney and people falling down stuff, you have Emperor Palpatine who came back out of nowhere. So
That's true.
you can't count them out when they fall down and go into explosion, because
They might just
you
come back
never
anyway.
know. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really good actually. Yeah. Yeah, speaking of Loki, again, if you haven't seen Loki, pause right now. But yeah, so the ending of Loki, it was all but revealed that Kang the Conqueror is seemingly like the next big bad guy in the MCU. How do you feel about that?
um, I don't know, to be honest, because right now it seems like the focus of Marvel movies has become so outspread
Mhm.
that I'm waiting for the tie back together. So if he becomes like that driving force for everyone to come back together and work against him, then I would definitely be like, that's where I'm gonna get my opinion from. It's
Mhm.
just right now it's too open ended for me to go to jump to any conclusions, especially with the multiverse running wild.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. It's even I think there's a really good argument to be made that this is the most like widespread the MCU has ever been, with like most of the Avengers team itself is being turnover. Like Tony's gone, Cap is gone, Thor's in space, Hulk is forever Hulk now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And um I saw an interesting theory that Kang won't be the next big villain. He'll be like the next Loki, kind of, because in the very beginning of the MCU, it was being teased that Loki was going to be the first big villain. Like he was in Thor, he survived.
Mhm.
He was at the end or in the end credit scene of Iron Man and Captain America. But then they beat him in the first Avengers movie, but that brought out the actual big bad guy with Thanos. So I
Uh,
saw an interesting theory that like the next Avengers movie is going to be them controlling the multiverse and fighting Kang to get that taken care of. But in doing that, that's going to release someone like Doctor Doom or Galactus, and they're going to be the next like main guy.
yeah, that'd be amazing if Doctor Doom came out
Yeah,
of that. That for me would, yeah, that's, yeah, I don't even know how to describe it in words right now if that was how it turned out. And hopefully it does. And the other thing is, now that the multiverse is open, I want it to stay open. Does that make sense? Like, I want
yeah.
it to keep having these ties and twists. So I'm wondering how Marvel is going to keep that without having all these different timelines like screw over the main events of what they want to happen in future
Mhm.
movies. And with like the Avengers reassembled, if that, well, that eventually needs to happen, and how they're gonna have that new group. I mean, with going off on a little like side tangent with the winter, or not the Winter Soldier, and it is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right?
Oh
That
yeah.
series.
Mhm.
I felt like that series didn't like hit off as well as the other
Mhm.
ones. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I did enjoy all three shows, but I definitely think in terms of like setting stuff up or tying in, that was the one that had the least stakes.
Hmm.
I think I might have enjoyed watching that show more than I enjoyed watching Loki, just because
Yeah,
it's kind of more like the down to earth. Okay, this is just a superhero classic. Just beat up some steroid bad guys, you know.
exactly.
And I think the messaging was really good in that show too. It wasn't like too on the nose, but it was still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms
And,
of like, yeah,
oh, I was just gonna say is like in terms of the multiverse, it had really
oh right,
nothing to do with that. But in terms of building up, because I feel like they want to make the Winter Soldier and Falcon like the new Captain America and Iron Man.
hmm,
That's their goal. And I felt that, but at the same time, it's sort of hard because you can never replace them.
Right.
But so it's gonna be interesting how they're gonna wrap around this new Avengers team and like who's gonna be the head of that. I'd
Hmm.
say either Doctor Strange or Fury would
Oh yeah.
be, even though like Fury's not technically Avenger, he's
Right.
like still one of them.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it would be cool to see Sam Wilson take it now that he's like got the shield and his Captain America. And I think the new suit looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to see him, but right, it's kind of the same thing of like, okay, Cap was technically the leader, but he's on the team with a god and Hulk.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be like the main fighter of them, you know?
Exactly.
But yeah, I think, yeah, I definitely agree with like it had ultimately nothing to do with the multiverse where Wanda maybe found it or she somehow creased it. I don't know exactly what she did, but she was
Mm-hmm.
definitely involved in it somehow because right at the end she like hurt her kids after her kids disappeared because she made them. That show was really weird. But
Yeah.
she like maybe found the crease into it and then obviously Loki just cracked the whole thing open.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been crazy
Hmm.
with how they've been able to do that and tie it in.
Hmm.
So the one thing is when you're watching, so I started watching actually the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the timeline that they have in Disney Plus, like the actual
Oh
timeline,
yeah.
like so I'm on the Iron Man 2 right now. And
Mm.
I'm wondering, like, should I watch parts of Loki in between it? Like, and because Loki, you know how they time travel.
Yeah.
Like, if you're getting really specific into that, like, if would
Yeah.
you want to watch it in that order, or you just all leave it for when they like recommend it? Like, what would you say for someone new watching if they wanted to watch it all in the original timeline?
Um, I would probably say maybe right after Infinity War and Endgame, because like you still have to know who Loki is, and obviously, because there's a scene where it shows Loki's death again in the show, so probably right after that. But you're right, you still definitely like would like to have that foundation going forward of what Loki does. But yeah, I don't think there's like a wrong place to put it as long as it's after Endgame, I would say, or at least Infinity War.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
With the riots that were going on in the uh Spider-Man trailer, it really had me thinking, like, this is completely random, I don't know why, but Far Cry 6, have you seen that trailer? And how
Yeah.
it has what's his face from Star Wars
Oh
as the
yeah.
main
I've heard
villain.
about
And
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I thought it's just like the tie-in was like, for me, like that's how I made the connection. I was like,
Mm,
man, this actor from Disney, Star Wars, and then
yeah.
how the riots looked exactly like the one from the Spider-Man trailer.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it's like I've never really played any of the Far Cry games, but
Mm,
like, yeah, I just thought it's a really interesting connection that I just had a thought of.
yeah, that is pretty cool. But oh, we should probably get into obviously after WandaVision ended, Wanda is like way more powerful now.
Hmm.
Do you think she's like solidified herself in that tier of Doctor Strange and Thor and like the strongest of them?
I would say most probably, and we'll get to see that when she goes head to head with one of them.
Right.
And I think she might be at the point where she could surpass them
Hmm.
because her powers seem to be continue growing. And like we've never seen that type of power of WandaVision with any other
Right.
character before so far in the MCU. So being able to like have a whole entire town under like mind control and being able to create this universe and like legit create like vision from the dead was
Yeah.
like out of nowhere.
Yeah. Mm,
So that power is like she could start reviving people, and that'd be interesting to see too.
that'd be
Is
kind of crazy.
yeah, if she
Yeah.
brings anyone back.
Yeah. Especially like because she brought Vision back so much to the point where he questioned all of her own reality. Like they
Hmm.
even said in it was Infinity War when Shuri was working on Vision to get the stone out of his head. She said it was like one of the most complex or at least unnecessarily complex things that ever existed. And she just brought it back completely to the point where it started questioning stuff around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like so
Yeah,
yeah, so the amount of power can't even be like measured at this point of what she
exactly.
can do, but like how she can be able to use it, that's where it gets
Mhm.
into question. And at the end when she's also doing what Doctor Strange does, I just forgot the name of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be interesting in seeing like what she does with that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we've never, except for the classic Loki in Loki, which is that's kind of a weird thing. Like he was sitting in between time, but we've never seen anyone just create anything, let alone
Hmm.
that much on that scale. And then she just, in that one episode, she got mad and expanded it like double or triple the size.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
like she'd even realize to the full
exactly. Yeah.
extent of what she was doing.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering if the grief, if it was a like powerful benefactor or if it's actually holding her back.
Mm,
And but because she wasn't able to even feel how much she was changing around her.
right. I think that if she does end up being the villain in the second Doctor Strange movie, I think that's going to be the main thing is she doesn't know exactly what she can do, and neither does anyone else. But she
Hmm.
just knows that if she tries, she will probably be stronger than Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how that gets diffused or not.
Hmm. There's also been another report coming out that in that movie, she's going to have a big fight with someone from the Fox Marvel movies. So that would be like the X-Men, or I think,
Oh, really?
yeah. So there's a rumor that in the multiverse of madness, one of them gets through and for whatever reason challenges Wanda and she fights them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which,
I've never
yeah.
heard of that yet.
Yeah, that came out like a day or two ago, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but like if you're thinking about that, like Wolverine would be cool, but there's no way he can stand up to Wanda because like yeah, he's really hard to kill, but what are you gonna do? She's flying around and building a town around you. Like he can't do
Exactly.
anything. Yeah. It'd have to be someone like Phoenix or maybe even Doctor Doom or someone like that. And that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy to think about.
And then wondering how, like, because at this point they can tie so many different characters from universes that they actually haven't used in the MCU yet, but have been official comics for years.
Yeah.
So they have a lot that they can pull from if they wanted.
Hmm. There's even like because this is the movie. These are the movies I'm most excited for. Is Thor being part of the Guardians of the Galaxy now? That's going to be hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But in those movies, there's even rumors about Adam Warlock coming in because they don't even like have a dispute with him with any other company. They could just
Hmm.
use him without negotiating like they have to do with Sony and Fox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he could come in. He's just as strong as people like Thor and Wanda. Like they can negotiate for like the Silver Surfer. Like there's still so many people.
Yeah. And it's gonna be interesting how, yeah, again, how Disney is gonna negotiate and bring all these people in.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I'm excited for it for sure. And we still have two movies that are coming out before Spider-Man does.
What are those again?
Shang-Chi comes out on this Friday, I think, and
Oh
then
yeah.
Eternals comes out in November, I want to say.
Yeah. And isn't the first one Doctor Strange? Like not exactly, but
Wong is in it. I
similar.
know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So
I'm excited to see that. I want to see that as soon as I can.
yeah, exactly. So I might actually go and see that as well.
Mm.
Now that I know that.
Yeah, the action just looks really cool too.
Hmm.
Like that
And
style. Yeah, it's so cool.
yeah, and that's the one thing I love about Marvel is how they're able to tie in different cultures in
Hmm.
real life and then just build upon them, or like fighting techniques found in
Yeah,
real life and being able to draw that into like a hero and what people look like up to in their
yeah.
childhood.
I think they've been doing more of that recently too. And I
Mhm.
think honestly, like a lot of people are saying, "Oh, they don't need to do this." I mean, yeah, but it's really good, so why not?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's like really good and it's really drawing people together, like all
exactly.
different types of people. So why would you not want
Exactly. Exactly.
that? Even if it is a little just extra, but that's
Yeah.
exactly what we need, I get right
Yeah.
now.
Might as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
And then uh the big question, who would you say your favorite hero is right now in the or
Oh,
in the MCU, like over the whole entire timeline so far?
I mean, my answer has been Thor most of the time, and
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, he's gotten better with every movie he's been in. But it's hard to like not say Spider-Man with the hype going on around that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you?
Uh, I've always been a fan of Tony Stark and Iron
Mhm.
Man. Like
Yeah.
he's legit. Like if I had uh superhero father, I'd want it to be Iron Man. Like how he changed from the first movie all the way to Endgame.
Yeah.
His character development was definitely the most extreme, I feel like, out of all the heroes
Yeah.
and what he had to go through and how he legit almost every movie he was dying and
Yeah.
being able to push through that. So definitely in terms of like favorite hero, either Iron Man or Spider-Man. But in terms of like raw power and like who I'd bet on in most fights, I'd say either Thor or Hulk.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be kind of crazy to see now that Thor isn't gonna be fat anymore, at least
Oh
that
yeah.
we know of in the movies. That because even the directors of Infinity War and Endgame said he was weaker in Endgame because he was fat,
Hmm.
but now he's not, and he still has Stormbreaker. I think,
Yeah,
yeah, he should because Cap brought the hammer back, so he kept Stormbreaker, and now he's just in space all the time. So that's gonna be kind of crazy to see how much stronger he is.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then also that and tying it back into Guardians of the Galaxy and what they're gonna be doing and like all the different threats that are going to come out of
Yeah,
the multiverse being open in space,
yeah,
because again we're getting this focus back on Earth
mm-hmm.
and we don't even know, like that's when like Dr. Doom and stuff could come from space and
Yeah.
they'll be the first ones to see that threat and might actually face it. So
I honestly didn't even think about that. Like, the multiverse is going to span across the entire universe? So, like, each planet getting their own dose of that. That would be insane. Wow. Yeah.
exactly. And the scary thing is if Thanos came back and all these variations of him,
Jesus.
you know, because
Yeah.
that's a total possibility they could tie in,
Hmm.
or every villain that they've had. But then you also have every hero that you have. So you could have Iron Man coming back and all these different variations. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's good. And then that multiverse war
Oh,
that's going to
yeah.
eventually need to happen to
Yeah.
find which one's going to be the best multiverse.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just thought it's funny when I like heard what version of Earth we are in
Yeah.
the Marvel universe. It's pretty funny how it's like I forgot the exact number, but it's like not number one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 I think it's 616 in the MCU, but yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And yeah. This whole next phase is going to be crazy, and it's just starting to ramp up now.
Hmm.
That's the crazy part. And even, did you see Black Widow?
No, I am going to. So either when it comes out Disney Plus soon, or
Mhm.
I was actually gonna watch it in the drive-in,
Oh,
but
really?
they took it off, yeah,
Oh, wow.
already. So yeah. How was that?
I liked it a lot. Like
Okay,
it obviously it takes place before Endgame because she dies, but
exactly.
yeah, I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot. I've seen it twice. So
So how did they like in the best way of not giving spoilers, how
mhm.
did they tie it in? Because was it mostly focused on her backstory or was it more on like an event in between, like before Endgame? Like how did they like
It's
what was the main villain and then what was the main like tie-in to the universe?
there's a good portion of it that happens when she's a kid, and that's right in the beginning. And then
Okay.
everything else happens when she's in the Avengers, but before Infinity War.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah. And do you remember? that one scene, Age of Ultron, where she's talking about the Red Room and how she got like torture trained and stuff.
Hmm.
It involves that a lot.
Okay, so it's taking down that, I
Pretty
guess.
much.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, so
Yeah, I liked it a lot though. It was fun.
yeah, that's really good. I'm excited to see it
Mhm.
soon.
But yeah, let's just what upcoming movie that they've announced are you most excited for?
Like for the Marvel universe
Yeah,
in
any of them.
general. Okay. For me, either the Doctor Strange or the Spider-Man for sure. Because
Yeah.
I always loved Tom Holland ever since the
Yeah.
first Homecoming and then Far From Home. So well, yeah, I'm definitely excited to see how that ties in. I'm like always been a huge fan of Spider-Man. Like is Iron Man, Spider-Man, and then either Thor or Hulk for
Mhm.
my favorites. So
Yeah, I would have to agree. Like it's before the last couple weeks, I would have said the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but
oh
like,
yeah,
you can't deny the hype around Spider-Man right now. Like it's
exactly.
the same way with me. Like every time a Spider-Man movie is close to coming out, I just get in like a total Spider-Man mood. Like that's the only superhero I want to think about.
Yeah, like I got into Marvel Campus opening weekend or whenever it came out. Yeah, and I
No,
bought
that's awesome.
both of the pop figures, the Spider-Man one. Like that's legit the first thing I did, and I spent way too much money at Disneyland. But like, it is really cool being in the Marvel Campus. I can't wait to for them to have more rides though, because
Mhm.
like is the Rise of the Resistance ride, right? The
Oh yeah,
newer one of Star Wars
I love
Land.
that ride.
That legit blew like any other ride out of like that ride is like the all-time
Oh yeah,
favorite for mine. Like out of any
easily.
theme park, any like the way they were able to capture and put all of that together and
Hmm.
how the waiting queues are
Yeah,
part of the ride. That
yeah,
was so cool and like it's so like ergonomical and how they're able to put everything together and make you feel like you're a part of the like ride the whole time. And even
yeah,
though like the timeline sort of doesn't make sense, it doesn't matter because
yeah,
you just enjoy the ride at that point.
yeah, yeah. But that's easily my favorite ride I've ever been on at any amusement park. It's so good.
Yeah, I'd have to say my second though is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh really?
When the because I hated Tower of Terror when I was a kid. I loved the
Mm,
drops, but I
yeah.
was scared of the little movie they played before.
Oh yeah.
So I'd be freaking out and crying. But now with Rocket like taking
Mhm.
over your elevator and going up and down
Yeah.
and seeing all the different scenes and the variations, it's always
Mhm.
super fun to ride over and over again.
Yeah. So how was Marvel Campus though? Was it good?
It is really good. Like they had I forgot what the stands were called. The ones that they eat at the end of the first Avengers.
Oh, the shawarma thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those yeah, it was actually really good. I enjoyed that.
Really?
And like just being surrounded by all this Marvel all like the Marvel theme was crazy and how
Yeah.
they're because like you go into the ride for web slingers
Hmm.
and you just get that aesthetic of like the high school vibe
Oh,
of
really?
Spider-Man. Yeah. And
That's
it's like
awesome.
you feel that vibe when you walk in and you go throughout the ride and you just feel so tied in and the live action that they've been doing with like all
Mm,
these characters like of course it's not the real actors but
right.
you have these characters running around and making the like Marvel universe a universe and the Doctor Strange
Oh, yeah.
outdoor experience was
Yeah.
also really cool and how I feel like they've really tied back in live action to theme parks
Hmm.
with like actors because I feel like it's went out of style and it became all about the rides. But with the Marvel universe getting so much hype again and people wanting to see their heroes in real life, that
Hmm.
Marvel Campus was able to capture that for the most part.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've ever since Star Wars Land opened in Disneyland, I've been really into that whole like real life theming as much as you can. And I'm glad to
Mm-hmm.
hear that they hit on that with Marvel too.
Yeah, it is an amazing experience. So the next time you go there, one hint is just you gotta get in the queue for web slingers to get into Marvel Campus. I don't know if it's still that
Oh,
busy right
really?
now, but they had a limit on how many people could get into Marvel Campus, and you could
Hmm.
only get in if you had a queue for web slingers, or
Oh,
if you waited in this line that was like 5 to 8 hours long, and it
jeez.
is crazy because all these people were trying to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense, especially with they're still like having reservations to get into the park itself, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
yeah, so there's definitely going to be a queue right now, but I say give it a year or two and
Mm.
it'll become a much more accessible place for anyone to get into.
Right. Because they even did that with Star Wars Land. One of our friends that we swam with when we were super young, he went opening weekend for that. And
Hmm.
you really get like a wristband and you were only allowed in there for like 2 or 3 hours.
Oh
They would
wow.
like call out like, okay, if you have this color, get out. And then like you know how the stormtroopers just walk around that land?
Yeah.
They would have the stormtroopers look at people's wristbands and say, "Hey, go," and they aim their little guns at people and like they shoot and stuff.
Yeah, I love how immersive Disneyland has become.
Yeah.
Like even though there's still a large amount of crowds,
Mhm.
like how they're able to make that immersive. Were you able to create a lightsaber
I
and
do.
have that
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah.
I was actually going to do that, but I spent my money on pins instead and pop figures. So I'm
Nice.
gonna do that next time. So what was your experience with that? Like, would you say it's the ride in itself, or how
It's
were they?
it's definitely like an experience worth like the money is a lot, so that's like per person,
Yeah.
obviously. But I mean, if you have the chance and you have the availability, like I think you absolutely should because obviously you get like your own really well made lightsaber, but the experience itself, like they're like sneaking you through this hallway, and there's not even like a sign for it. It's just like
Oh,
a random
really?
area. Yeah, it's just like a stand, and the sign is super low, so you can't see it unless you walk up to it.
Oh, okay.
They'll call you in and like hustle you through this little hallway, and then there's this
Hmm.
giant room. It's I don't want to spoil anything for you because there's
Yeah.
legitimate things that like I just can't say or else it's gonna ruin stuff.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's really cool,
Yeah, that's
really fun.
yeah. And okay, so on the Star Wars note, the you played Jedi Fallen Order, right?
Mhm.
And with that and the sequel coming out eventually, are you excited for that? Like, would you say you're and like looking forward to that game a lot? And also with EA losing their game control over Star Wars now, which is I'm excited to see all these other
Yeah,
developers get the chance to be able to make games of Star Wars again. So like, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm definitely excited for the EA news because like not only have they had kind of a monopoly over it, but they've made like one good game, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah. But yeah, like you said, seeing a bunch of different studios being able to give their takes on different genres for Star Wars, that's going to be cool because I mean, Star Wars is one of the most like unique and versatile universes of any single
Exactly.
thing. Like you could do anything and it's going to work, right? Like you could
Hmm.
make like Red Dead Redemption but Star Wars and it'd be like the solo movie and it'd be really fun.
Exactly.
So yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, EA with their control because they made the Battlefront 2015 version,
Mhm.
and that one like is sold because it's Battlefront for
Right.
the name, but that was about it. They only had one like universe, which was the original trilogy in it,
Mhm.
and then they released Battlefront 2, and that game. DICE did a really good job of trying to fix and update it for the
Yeah.
longest time, and I get, yeah, applause the DICE, but with EA forcing microtransactions in a game that you already paid $60 for
Exactly.
is definitely like thumbs down for like EA and what
Yeah.
they do there. And then, but the things that really like changed the hype was Jedi Fallen Order and Squadrons because they started
Yeah.
releasing these games that weren't like Squadrons. It wasn't like a major title, but it became a major title because it's what people wanted was like a reboot of the original feeling of just flying around in X-Wings and TIE fighters and having those dogfights
Mhm.
and like really immersive controls with the VR capabilities
Yeah.
and whatnot now, which I definitely want to try at some point. And then Fallen Order, taking that classic storyline of a Padawan who
Yeah.
has to survive and tying that in and like with Rebels and
Yeah.
that and pulling that all together, like definitely interesting with Fallen Order and seeing the sequel of what they're going to do there.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, like the story, I think, above all, because like the final boss fight was my favorite part with Vader, just for a lot of reasons. But
Yeah,
clearly, Vader is hunting him, right? Like he knows he
exactly.
exists. So that's gonna be really interesting to see if that is the plot of the second game. You're just on the run the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for that for sure. But Squadrons, yeah, that was huge.
With Vader Immortal, and
Ooh.
I really want them, like Disney, to make a Vader Immortal series
Mhm.
because Vader, he's like, there's so little we know about him. You watch Rogue One, and it gave some insight into the true power he has,
Yeah.
especially that end scene.
Yeah.
Like that was my favorite part of Rogue One by far, and made Rogue One one of my top Star Wars movies. Is how they were able to tie in that universe, and they made Star Wars seem much more realistic in how like is these normal people rebels like that started this rebel alliance against the Empire, and
Yeah.
how they all died and like sacrificed for this
Mhm.
common goal, and like Darth Vader, like yeah, just Darth
Yeah.
Vader, man. So if they were
Yeah.
able to make or if they're going to make an Immortal series like about Darth Vader, because there's been the comics. Have you read those?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they were able to make that into like a series on Disney Plus, I legit think they'd bring in
Mhm.
like so much more people
Oh
because
yeah.
at least like all the diehard Star Wars fans would like, yeah,
Yeah. Could you imagine it's just releasing a series like just, hey, look at Vader hunting Jedi. He's hunting one each episode.
exactly. And
Yeah.
like him just taking them out while like, because there's the VR experience on Oculus
Yeah.
where he's trying to revive Padme,
Hmm.
and that's a really interesting take on the Vader Immortal series. And so if they had to like something tied into that while he's hunting down with his like death squad with the 501st
Yeah.
clones right at the beginning, that would be an amazing take on that. And they could tie
Hmm.
in so much of what's happened with Rebels and all these post series of the Clone Wars.
Hmm. Yeah. We're like, especially like everything that we've seen in Vader, like in those little like official handbook things that come out with every movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything you read in those is like he is the most feared person in the galaxy. Most people think he's the ruler and not even the emperor. Like I want to
Exactly.
see that part. Like I want to see a
Exactly.
ship land and like a whole planet just be terrified because he's there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And with Admiral Thrawn being tied into Rebels, I thought that was an
Mhm.
interesting move because I love the books of where Admiral Thrawn came from. And not to say that Rebels ruined it, but it's definitely like I felt like he could have done better in his own
Mhm.
series, like post Empire when Luke was making the New Republic with Leia and
Mhm.
all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're definitely gonna see more of him. Like we were talking about
Hmm.
Mandalorian before we started recording. Ahsoka is hunting for him, and apparently hunting for Ezra with him, or
Yeah.
thinking that he has Ezra. Which I mean, that's gonna be cool. Wherever we see that, if it's a Thrawn series or an Ahsoka series, that's gonna be cool to see.
Yeah. And do you think the Boba Fett series is separate from the Mandalorian now that they're coming out with? Or since it's just called the Mandalorian, are we figuring out if Boba Fett is a Mandalorian or not? Since he is a
Um,
clone, but
yeah, it.
yeah.
I mean, I think the Boba Fett series itself will be somewhat separate because
Hmm.
from what we saw at the end of the Mandalorian series, he's basically like a crime king now.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be more focused on that. Honestly, I have no idea what the third season of Mandalorian is going to be like. Now that
Hmm.
Luke has Grogu and everything,
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's going to be doing now.
Exactly. And like what's gonna be his drive now that
Hmm.
the Grogu is gone? Because it became his main drive throughout the whole
Right.
entire series. So seeing how that ties in and the how the Empire recovers You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
in the ninth movie, they showed how much like power that the Emperor Palpatine still
Exactly.
had,
Yeah.
and like these Death Star Star Destroyers
Hmm.
and whatnot. So being able to understand where that came from and like how that built up again around like Moff Gideon and whatnot, that's gonna be
Hmm.
really interesting.
Yeah, that I think that part's going to be really cool. Especially maybe that is just going to be the third season of him going around as the First Order is building up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and clearly, do you think Luke is going to be in that third season at all?
I hope he is. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's like the CGI version,
Yeah.
like I still want Luke there because definitely he could become a main character with Grogu, but like having it separate as well, I feel like would work a
Mhm.
lot better. But like definitely ties into how the series is gonna run for sure. Luke has a major part in that.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think that's probably the thing I would be second or at least like tied with the Vader thing of most interested to see is like what exactly is Luke doing during this time
Mm-hmm.
of like how is he rebuilding his order or what's his training stuff like or how involved is he in building the new republic as opposed to building the new Jedi, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that one of the major theories that I've had since the beginning of Mandalorian that I still have
Hmm.
is when they were the reason they wanted Grogu was because of the midichlorian rate in his
Hmm.
body and how he was going to use that to revive Emperor Palpatine, like a clone of Emperor Palpatine. So
Right.
I think in some point Grogu has to get captured. Like this is just my theory so
Right.
far is he needs to be captured and he needs to get his all of his force abilities put back into this clone version of Emperor Palpatine
Hmm.
for him to regain his powers. And who was the Emperor Palpatine's like I'm completely blanking. Who is Emperor Palpatine's master before?
It's the dude whose name people joke about all the time.
Yeah,
I'm blanking on his name too. Hang on. I,
because
oh,
he,
Darth Plagueis.
yeah, Plagueis.
Yeah.
Because there's still super strong theories that Plagueis is like when Palpatine went to kill Plagueis, that Plagueis became Palpatine.
Mm,
And how that like it's just so like all the we know so little about like the Sith. I feel
yeah.
like still even after all of the 9 movies and what's came out so far, we know so little that they could do that. Disney has a lot of opening to do what they want with the Sith and explaining
Yeah.
Palpatine if they wanted in his backstory through the Mandalorian and these other series and
Hmm.
rebuilding the First Order of the Empire.
Yeah. Like I remember I know Disney like deemed all of this not canon anymore, but during all the old Republic stuff, there was like a very regular theme of the Sith Lord transferring his spirit into his apprentice's body to keep ruling.
Mm-hmm.
They could very easily do that again, you know?
Exactly, and that we saw that with Ray
Yeah.
and how he wanted to be struck down because then
Right.
she would have became Emperor Palpatine in a way. So,
Hmm.
and yeah, I thought at the end of the ninth movie is interesting of how they ended that of how it's like all good versus all evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting in trying to salvage that like trilogy because I felt like the eighth movie I could have done without, except for the and like yeah, the eighth movie left me with a lot of disappointment, I'd
Yeah.
say, except for the ending with
Yeah.
the fight against Kylo Ren and Luke. That is for
Yeah.
sure the highlight of that movie.
I think I liked everything from the throne room scene and on, like when Kylo
Mm-hmm.
kills Snoke.
Oh yeah.
Like, and everything from that point on, I liked a lot. But everything before that, I was kind of like, okay, this, like, I know this stuff kind of has to happen, but
Mm-hmm.
not this much, you know?
Exactly. And the side character development, which got ignored
It was,
in the
yeah,
ninth movie, really weird. Like I understand where they're trying to going and tying in these side characters, but it did not work well for the series. And how the actress of Rey was talking about how they didn't even know
Yeah.
the relationship thing until they were shooting the ninth movie.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like Disney shouldn't have used two different directors
Yeah.
for like, especially with JJ doing the first one and the third one. Like, he doesn't even get back to back.
Yeah.
You put the other one in the middle. Honestly, I think they were kind of whenever they made that decision, I think it was done at that point. Like, clearly, if you use two different directors, they're not going to see eye to eye, especially if they were both Star Wars fans growing up and had their own
Exactly.
little versions of what was going to happen after. Like that's
Yeah.
never going to pan out like you want.
Exactly. And I felt like if they just kept JJ in,
Mhm.
the trilogy would have came out a little better. Not saying the other director was bad at all. I
Yeah.
actually enjoyed the how the eighth movie was shot. Is
Oh,
just the
absolutely. It looked so good.
storyline. Yeah, it's just the storyline itself became so jumbled because of this miscommunication in this highest levels, and
Yeah.
they only had one shot at it with the original cast,
Hmm.
with all of them passing away sadly, and
Yeah.
what's been going on. So
Yeah, it is like I think Ryan Johnson did a really good job. Like that movie, like you said, it looks amazing. Like especially that Luke versus Kylo fight where it has the sun behind the
exactly.
giant walkers. It looks incredible, right?
Yeah, and how he's able to tie in like the writing was really well done in that part, and
Hmm.
like how it's still like you could tell it is Luke with his like
Right.
satire and
Yeah.
him like flashing and showing off, and
Hmm.
Kylo Ren in that rage, and it does help set a lot in the eighth movie, but it is definitely, yeah, the beginning of the eighth movie. Not no, the beginning was good. It's just that middle part of the eighth movie felt
Hmm.
like too much extra that they
Yeah.
could have cut out and put in more like important.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Like and especially like Ryan Johnson undid a lot of what JJ did in episode 8. Like,
exactly.
Snoke is dead, like in the middle of the movie. Kylo's
Hmm.
the main bad guy now. Rey is like the most talented thing naturally ever. And then
Yeah,
the ninth movie, JJ's like, no, Palpatine's back. Kylo
yeah,
is good, kind of. Rey is maybe bad for like 20 minutes.
yeah.
They just kept going back and forth. And honestly, it seems like they were just trying to spite each other at some point.
hmm One theory I was really hoping for the ninth movie though was the was actually Ray becoming bad
Mhm.
with Kylo Ren and them
Yeah.
two ruling. Like it would have been such a crazy twist because like good has to win, but
Right.
I would have really enjoyed seeing Ray as like a anti-hero or
Yeah.
at that point Sith.
Yeah, I
And
think
we got to see a little bit of that.
yeah, with that weird vision she had.
hmm
Yeah,
It's just like Luke.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do think it would have been sick though if she was like to turn at least a little bit to the dark side for real. Just I think like obviously like I know a lot of people don't like this because they just don't like the movies, but Rey is probably the most naturally powerful person in Star Wars, at least in
hmm
like the new canon, you know?
Yeah.
He's just not as trained or as experienced as everyone else. But just like that idea of something that strong, something that can be that strong, turning to the dark side, I
Exactly.
think they should have teased that at least a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely agree because we saw that tiny bit when she electrocuted a whole entire ship and blew
Yeah,
it up
yeah.
when Kylo Ren and her were having that power struggle.
Hmm.
And then also you see that when she goes against Kylo Ren and the whole entire, or no, it goes with Kylo Ren and that whole entire,
Oh,
when they kill,
the
yeah,
tournament
Snoke
thing,
at that
yeah,
point
yeah.
and the guard.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah,
Well, just that whole entire scene of like rebuilding that order, and you could tell in the eighth movie she's definitely having struggles between good and light. Like she's like saying she wanted to be good,
right,
but she had these conflicts because Kylo Ren was really pushing for her to
right.
join him, and like they could build something new, which wasn't good or bad.
Hmm. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think naturally because that was the part where they were pushing the hardest of they both want the other one to turn.
hmm
So like I think yeah, I like that a lot, but Honestly, what I think this is going back to like the trilogy as a whole, but I think they should have built Finn up as I think Finn should have the Force like more than just he knows things. Like I think
Hmm.
he legitimately should have been able to be a Jedi or at least trying to be one from episode 7 and then maybe turn Rey at the end of episode 8. So at the end of episode 8 Snoke is dead, but Rey and Kylo are the dark side now and Finn is like the only one left.
Oh wow, and Poe Dameron. I
Right,
feel
yeah.
like yeah, because Poe Dameron, like he has to have force ability because
Right.
he was doing what Anakin did as a kid, and we all know that
Yeah.
Anakin and Darth Vader most powerful being in the
Hmm.
like so far in the Star Wars universe because his father was midichlorians, but
Literally.
and yeah,
Yeah.
like his father was the Force, so.
Yeah.
I think they did a really good job. I mean, yeah, like the original trilogy was so well done with how instead of making Anakin like this Christ-like figure, he
Hmm.
had to become the opposite, and then he
Yeah.
became the Christ-like figure at the very end with that change with Luke.
Yeah. I remember like I remember when I was super young, right as I started watching them, because when we were born, like episode 3 came out at the
Hmm.
same time we were born pretty much.
Yeah.
So when we got old enough, it was almost like the natural thing is, oh, this one's called episode 1. We should start with that one.
Hmm.
I remember a bunch of people making jokes like, oh, the kid is space Jesus. What does that mean? I remember thinking that was really weird, and then I saw, oh, okay, I understand why now. But yeah, I like obviously, yeah, like that's why this is so popular. That whole roller coaster of him being built up, like this is the person that's going to save the universe, and then he is the one that locks down the universe.
Exactly. And that's how Kylo Ren was
Yeah.
portrayed like at the beginning. He like fell off after.
Hmm.
And yeah, it leaves a lot unexplained in the seventh movie, or like just the whole entire trilogy of why he turned to the dark side. Because we
Right.
understand there's a little bit of family contention there, and Luke being his trainer, and
Hmm.
that whole entire scene with Luke thinking about like taking him out and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that whole trilogy is like it. I think it was. I like. I'll watch it and I'll enjoy it. But if
Hmm.
you said to me like, oh, this is like a really deep and great ending to this trilogy, it's hard to say yes 100% of
Exactly.
all the stuff we've talked about. Like, it's still fun. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you want to watch Star Wars? It's episode 7. No, I'm not gonna watch that. Like, I'm still gonna watch it, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think yeah, I do think they kind of copied not copied, but I think they went with the
Mm.
track of the original trilogy too much of
Yeah.
there's only one bad force user and only one good force user. But like the bad one has a master and the good one gets trained by a bunch of different people, but ultimately there's only one on each side. I don't think you needed to do that, right? Like
Yeah.
I think you could have gone closer to the prequels, obviously not like 100 versus 2.
Yeah.
I think you could have maybe given like a little more people like Ray isn't the only person in the galaxy who's force sensitive to that extent. There would be someone else.
Exactly. Especially that broom scene in the eighth
Yeah,
movie.
I completely
Like,
forgot about that.
yeah, exactly. So that shows exactly why switching directors is such a horrible move because
Yeah,
we legit have 2 years or like a year and a half of thinking, oh, like who's this broom kid? Like,
yeah.
what's he gonna do? Like, how's he gonna tie back in? But then guess what? They never even think
Mhm.
about other force users the whole
No.
entire ninth movie.
Mhm.
Because at that point he's just trying to save the like trilogy and
Yeah,
trying to make it have
and to
some
end it.
sense into it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I yeah, I
I
do
feel
think.
like they should
Yeah,
have left it a little more open ended. That's all I'm
yeah.
saying at the
I
end.
yeah, I will say I think the ninth movie is my favorite from those three.
Hmm.
Like, I definitely enjoyed watching that one the most.
Yeah,
But yeah, I still think because you remember that whole running thing they had where Finn was trying to tell Ray something that entire movie.
yeah,
It came out after that. That was like he feels the Force too. Like it's I feel like maybe do that in episode 7 so that he can actually
yeah,
use it. You know?
exactly. And how like he was able to use the lightsaber and like
Yeah,
yeah, even though he got beat up, he still was able to hold his own for a little bit. So it shows
yeah,
he must have some force capabilities to be able to sense and block moves before Kylo Ren like ultimately
Right.
like murdered him.
Yeah, he stood his own for like a solid 5 or 6 moves with at that point the most dangerous person in the galaxy.
Exactly. And how he was like raised up and taken from his home to become this trained elite force of stormtroopers. And I thought it was really interesting how they didn't bring back clones for the First Order.
Yeah.
Like I wanted them to, especially since you saw the cloning facility on the Sith planet.
Yeah.
Like they had all the, and like the other interesting thing is why Snoke, which is why with Grogu and the Mandalorian and rebuilding the First Order, we'll really see why they're hunting down this super force sensitive child, the Empire, and like the test they were experimenting on Grogu.
Yeah, like I do get your point though of like why did Palpatine really need a puppet like Snoke? Like in theory, he could have just come back like he did in Episode 9. He could have done. Clearly, he had the power, right? It's not like those Star Destroyers were built in a year. Like he had
exactly. So why did he wait? And also, like, okay, is this just me being confused, or you know how there's some Death Star Destroyers that got out and started destroying some planets?
Yeah.
What happened to them? I can't remember.
I think when they destroyed, because they only sent like 1 or 2 out, but I think when they destroyed the little hub thing, I think all of the Star Destroyers lost power. Wait, actually, no, wasn't the entire end scene of them shutting down the communications so that the Star Destroyers couldn't leave the planet?
Yeah, exactly.
But
so
yeah,
there should be 1 or 2 of them out.
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I'm saying? And there should be more. So
yeah.
Yeah, unlike the MCU, Star Wars right now has a lot of cleanup they need to do.
Yeah, and honestly, if Star Wars does come out with another, like more than just a show, like if they start making new movies, what do you want to see?
For a movie, so again, I'd really love to see that time period when the Empire first started coming out and hunting Jedi and Darth Vader and that whole entire aspect. But for a movie the post sequels, you know, like another sequel, if they're going to add one, I'd want it to be a completely different storyline, like focus more on Rogue One style Star Wars, where it's like you have this group of people and they're like fighting, and I feel like it should be more of rebuilding this republic, right? Because now there's so many different fractions. There's going to be, of course, still First Order supporters on planets, and all these different like ideas and philosophies getting like crushed and like manipulated together, where they're all going to fight and have their own opinion be the best again. You know what I'm saying? Because we had that, they never really explained it in any official movies, but in books they've explained how right after the Empire fell, there's still Empire loyal like planets that supported that. There's and all these wars and stuff that were still going on with the New Republic. So I want something along the lines of that.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it's weird because I forgot to mention this before. They did a Lego Star Wars holiday special last year, and it was like the new cast and stuff, and Finn's like using a lightsaber and training with Rey and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. Though I don't think it's canon because they were like doing time travel stuff, but
yeah,
it was kind of cool to see that. I mean, but yeah, I do agree that if they do another sequel, I think it should be like the same kind of time gap between episode 6 and 7, so maybe like 20-30 years in the future, so it's not like immediate right now, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And they would be able to tie that together and have a lot more force sensitive people in play, you know, because Star Wars has been very conservative besides the prequels and how many force users there's been,
right?
So I feel like it should become more not common, but definitely more like focused. And like we have the Knights of Ren, and we don't really know where they came from. And like even though like elite guard, like the Emperor's Guard and stuff, they were definitely force sensitive users that we know so little about. So even expanding on that would be really awesome.
Yeah, I think the Knights of Ren should have been something a little more, honestly.
Hmm.
Because they were part of Luke's Jedi camp, right? And they were just the only
Yeah,
people that Kylo kept around.
exactly.
Well, clearly, he was like suppressing their power to some extent because they didn't even use it really. They just had
Yeah.
the kind of force weapons.
And yeah, they stayed away from lightsabers, and that's really interesting to see. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you give up a saber for
Right.
these weapons?
Yeah, and especially
And
yeah,
no, you keep going.
if they were in Luke's camp, right? They surely had to have been able to use their power at least a good amount and probably at least trained with a lightsaber a few times, unless Luke, because they were like, obviously we never saw their face, but they were pretty old. Like they were the same height
Hmm.
as Kylo pretty much.
Yeah,
So they, unless they were like super, super basic, like they just found out they were force sensitive, which is a possibility, but then they'd have to be able to use their stuff to like a bigger extent. But then
exactly.
was it their own choice to do that, or did Kylo make them just in case they got stronger than him?
Yeah, so that's always the thing. That is really like a huge question, is like how come Kylo Ren didn't use them and train them up if he really wanted to overthrow Snoke?
Yeah,
Because they're legit called the Knights of Ren. They
yeah,
weren't
they're
called the
loyal
Knights of
to him.
Snoke. So
Yeah,
if he would really wanted, so yeah, it's again, I feel like a rush planning by Disney on that part in their writing, and how yeah, they weren't able to just tie it up enough.
yeah. I mean, it is what it is at this point, right? It's been
Mhm.
done for 2 years, so
Yeah, and now they just gotta fix it with, well, not fix it, but like
right.
explain a lot more with the Mandalorian and these other series coming out.
Hmm.
And hopefully they keep creating more series at this point right now, because I feel like they understand what they did wrong or what they've done, and they're just slowly rebuilding into Star Wars instead of like
Hmm.
the MCU, where at this point they're like creating all this new franchise, which is amazing,
Yeah,
and it's been pulling it together.
yeah, but yeah, you're right. I'm definitely excited for what else they have because they announced like what 8 different shows not that long
Hmm.
ago, so there's going to be more coming out.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, it's been crazy. So
Mhm. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of both Marvel and Star Wars, like we've said. I mean, clearly I'm gonna watch whatever they put out. I've been a Star Wars fan my whole life, so I'm not just gonna like skip anything at this point.
exactly, yeah. Like, why would you?
Yeah,
That
like yeah,
Yeah, even though I'm struggling right now through Rebels, I'm still trying to watch all the series because like they have some cool tie-ins in
hmm,
those lesser movies. But I don't think I could ever watch Resistance all the way through.
really,
It's
yeah,
like, yeah, like it's like an all right show, but like I think Star Wars needs to get to the point where they understand that, hey, like it's like Marvel, like it's more built towards like teens and young adults than
right,
it is towards kids.
hmm,
Not saying that those shows were bad or anything, but it
yeah,
definitely draws away from these larger Star Wars audiences.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Like there, like wasn't that show on Disney XD or something like that?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it is just very like, yeah,
I get what you
it's,
mean. Yeah,
yeah, very like kid oriented
hmm,
instead of was, I think it should be like teenager to adult orientated with Star Wars,
yeah,
because that's what it's always been, since the beginning. But being able to tie it in, I guess, right now with the younger generation to keep them interested, and then releasing newer stuff. Like, again, I'd want them to take it towards what they've done with Marvel, because
hmm,
I feel like Marvel's done such a great job
yeah.
in their series and their movies. So
Yeah, they've done like so much different genres of stuff, but still made it Marvel.
mhm.
Like Ant-Man is more of like a comedy heist kind of stuff, but it's superheroes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think they started to do that. Like Solo is a Western, but Star Wars, like you're saying, Rogue
Hmm.
One is straight up a war movie, but in the Star Wars universe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think if they did stuff like that, not only like we were talking about before, it would expand the universe. We'd be able to see more stuff in depth, which they have plenty of stuff to show at this point.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think
exactly.
yeah, it'd capture a lot more audiences too. I think that's just a good decision overall.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes with Star Wars and their future plans. Definitely, if nothing major comes out besides the shows so far, I'm gonna just have to enjoy the First Order or the Rise of the Resistance right until
Yeah.
then.
I mean that ride is so good, man.
Yeah,
That's not-
for all you listening, you need to go to Disneyland and ride that ride if you haven't yet. Like legit, it will blow your experience of what technology can bring for a thrill. So
yeah, it's really crazy.
yeah.
Something we won't talk about this now, but if we do have you on again, I do
Hmm.
have another idea of something I want to talk about with you specifically because I know you're really good at this kind of stuff.
Okay.
I was we'll do a little bit teaser right now, but
Hmm.
I was writing down a bunch of ideas for a theme park, but like based on Avatar.
Oh,
And I think
okay.
we'll get into that later, but I think that's like a really easy way to like slide into stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Just
that'd be really awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be thinking of ideas now that you put that in my head.
Sorry, man. I had to tease you
No,
through on
no,
something.
that's awesome. I've
Yeah.
been writing songs actually because,
Really?
yeah, and one of them I took a whole entire Star Wars theme. I wrote a rap verse about Darth Vader. So, yeah, it's not that good right now. I mean, I ain't dropping anything soon, but
Right. That's awesome. That's really cool though, man.
yeah, but definitely would love to go to an Avatar theme park.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that on a different episode soon. But yeah, is there anything else you want to bring up with Star Wars or anything? Really, anything at all?
Um, the one last thing I'd like to talk about before we close is consoles, because this
Oh
is
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
with all the shortages, and we talked about this a little bit off air, the Steam Deck, which is coming out, and
Yeah.
how it's a handheld. It's like the what it's running right now would be compared to a Xbox One or a PS4. So it's able to run all these AAA games, at least at their goal is 30 FPS for 720p, but it can hit up to 4K at 120 FPS
Wow.
depending on what game and when it's in dock mode. So it's a really
Huh.
interesting concept.
That's actually really and like yeah, we were talking about this before because I didn't know about this, but you told me a little bit about it before we
Hmm.
started, and especially with how many games Steam has access to, like that's a lot. And
Exactly.
if the goal is 30 on 720 for everything, at least, I mean that's really good. That can be for handheld too. Geez,
Exactly.
that could change a
And
lot.
yeah, and the way they're even advertising it, they're saying it's still a PC. So, like, it'll have Steam OS software, but
Oh,
you could add in your own thing, and you could add in your own gaming stores. Like, they don't even care. They
huh.
want you just to get on the platform, because they're creating this new console, and they want as much usage as they can.
Right.
So they're like, they legit told people, yeah, it's a PC. You can treat it like a PC. It's a gaming PC. It's not limited like these other consoles.
Wow.
And the part I want to like, it's Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and that and with the Steam Deck is legit. Like, I feel like it's gonna be the selling point. Like, even
Yeah.
the Steam and Microsoft, two separate like major companies, they like the way Steam Deck is being represented right now. You could get Game Pass Ultimate, play all these games, especially like the I can't even pronounce it,
That's
but
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bethesda Studios, and how Xbox owns them now. You can play all their AAA games on the go on this portable system,
Yeah.
and it would be paying so little for this like Netflix gaming service
Hmm.
on the go. So it's a really amazing concept that is dropping soon, but you can't get any of these until like 2022
Yeah.
again because of shortages and pre-orders and whatnot.
Yeah, you're talking about the pre-order backup. It's already until like the second quarter of next year. That's
Yeah, it's way too crazy, man. Like
yeah.
it's the hype behind it right now is getting a lot. I feel like a lot of people still don't know about it yet because it's not
Mhm.
released yet, but
Right.
being officially announced and almost having the final set of hardware
Mhm.
out, and a lot of major YouTubers and companies trying it out, like IGN and whatnot,
Yeah.
bringing a lot of hype towards it. So, have you? Are you interested in the next gen consoles? Like, would you like out of the Xbox Series X and PS5? Which one would you pick up first? Or
I would probably say the PS5 mainly because I have the PS4 now, so that's
Mhm.
kind of like the station I've been with. But everything I've heard from the PS5, maybe again, this is might just be all hype and not anything actual, but I've heard the PS5 has been better, but I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely, the thing that changed it for me was the Steam Deck actually, because
Mhm.
what I would do is I pick up the Steam Deck and
Well,
get
right.
Game Pass on that, and then so I have all my Microsoft games, so I don't even
Oh
need an
yeah.
Xbox Series X
Mhm.
at this point because I have this PC that I can take on the go. And then
Yeah.
for exclusives, I'd pick up the PS5 and to try the new controller, that haptic
Yeah.
feedback I've heard is
I
amazing.
do want to try that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that experience, and yeah, it's been really interesting seeing how there's still a crazy amount of like shortages, and it's not only affecting the console world, but a lot of these major companies. Like I know Apple will probably be fine because they have a lot of money to spend to be able to get
Right.
their own microchips and what they create now. But it's been these like bad shortages for any type of like PC to console to when your smartphone, like your smartphone coming up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I know you've talked about Oculus and VR a lot.
Oh yeah.
Are you still going to take that chance if it comes to get one of those?
At this point, I'm in this in between stage of waiting for an Oculus Quest 3 or a different separate VR headset, or even just seeing if the Steam Deck could run VR and getting
Mhm.
a wired
Ooh,
headset,
that
because
is
then
interesting. Yeah.
you have that. It's still portable technically
Hmm.
because it's that PC, but being able to do that would be amazing because VR, again, it's at the stage where it's hard because people don't want to invest in it because there's not a lot of people spending money on VR. Like there's a good amount, but not enough yet, where major sums of money are going in to help make this software and hardware better. But at the same time, a lot more people would like buy VR if it became a little more powerful. So
Right.
it's like right on the edge right now, where if one side tips, it's gonna all fall together, and I feel like be great. But yeah, and also just VR and the motion sickness right now
Oh yeah.
they fixed a lot of that with games and how they design them. But having that fixed all the way would help VR hit the masses more, and that's what the
Mhm.
Oculus Quest 2 did, was
Hmm.
be cheaper, more affordable, and allow for the masses to be able to play without like this huge gaming PC rig.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't because one of my cousins got one, and I went over to his house and I used it, and it is really surreal, like how immediate it is. Because I didn't use the VR since like the very first Oculus came out years ago, and
Mhm.
it is kind of crazy how quickly it changed into what it is now, and it's getting even better even sooner.
Exactly. And it makes you excited because for anyone who hasn't tried VR yet, it's like night and day experience because you
Yeah.
have gaming on like a flat screen, And
Mhm.
that's always going to be there. It's always going to be a part of our development, but VR could take it to the next level of like
Mhm.
how surreal it can be. Like, how would you describe your experience like trying out that VR?
Well, the first game that he had me play was this like gladiator style game, where the second you start, it drops you in the middle of an arena, and these
Hmm.
gates are all around, and they open, and dudes with big hammers come out, and it lets you pick up ninja weapons and like throw ninja stars and shoot a bow and arrow and stuff. And
Okay.
the thing that surprised me the most was like how smooth the triggers and the buttons on the hand stuff is.
Hmm.
Like how easily I was able to just like scoop up a sword and swing it around. How easily I was able to pull up an arrow and shoot it. Like that the smoothness of how quick that went surprised me a lot.
Yeah. And would you say it felt natural when you're going through it? Like your experience with it? Because with VR, they try their best not to have any bugs because
Hmm.
that's how it takes you out. And that's why these
Right.
games are usually smaller right now, is
Hmm.
the just the capabilities. So would you say that it felt like you were in that world, at least, or in that arena with
I
these
would
enemies that you had to fight?
definitely say so, especially because like you were saying, there's like no blank spot 360 degrees. It's the
Yeah.
entire thing. Like even if you look straight up, there's like a moon with the smoke from the fire going up.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, like it felt like it's a really cartoonish art style, but still, like it felt like I was
Exactly.
there, especially because you look down and you're like you look like a cartoon gladiator. So
Yeah, but
yeah, it does feel
with
really immersive.
okay, yeah, because that's the what makes VR different from
Mhm.
all these different gaming consoles is the immersive feel in it.
Right.
Yeah. Were you able to try any other games?
I tried this cowboy shootout style game
Hmm.
and a Five Nights at Freddy's horror game too, but that VR horror is like a whole separate different thing. Like
Uh-huh.
that like had that immersion combined with a legitimately creepy thing. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
The cowboy shootout I think was my favorite because like it's the same thing with the triggers felt so smooth. So like it
Hmm.
drops you in the middle of like it looks like Frontierland in Disneyland. And these dudes will come out with like little pieces of wood with a nail or with guns of their own. You just like and it felt just so cool because you would turn like it wasn't 360 like the other one.
Yeah.
It was like 90 degrees each side. So you could have to turn like shoot someone from the side while someone's coming from over here and you'd have your other one over there. It just
Oh
felt really
wow.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And when so the other hard thing about VR is when people are playing VR, you feel so immersed. But when you try to watch someone play, it's a
Yeah.
much harder experience because since it's like a 360 scope around your head with the
Hmm.
screen, when you go to shoot, to you it looks normal, but when you
Right.
watch someone play VR, it looks like distorted and
Yeah.
whatnot. So it's really hard to get that immersive feel when you never use VR before and you just watch someone play VR. So
Hmm.
what would you like? Would you recommend people just to try it or like?
Yeah, like if you get the opportunity to try it, I would obviously go with one of the more basic ones first, just in case of the motion sickness thing, or at least just to get yourself used to it. 'Cause
Mhm.
it is like a lot to deal with for some games. Like some people just aren't good at like stressful games to begin with, but
Yeah.
because of like the Gladiator one, my cousin thought it'd be funny to start me off on like 100% difficulty right from the gate. So there's like
Uh-huh.
8 guys coming out of each tunnel at once, and I have to like spin around with a mace. So yeah, like don't start like that because it can be a lot to take in, especially like obviously you know that it's not real, and just
Yeah.
being that close, it can trigger some people's motion sickness, especially when it's that much going on.
Hmm.
So yeah, start slow, but if you can start,
Yeah.
yeah,
And there's been a lot with different genres with VR, from puzzle rooms to
yeah,
like gladiator fights to platformers where you're not the actual
yeah,
person platforming, but you control a smaller figure and you get this outside perspective of watching
mhm.
them do the platformer as you control them. So yeah, I'll get back to you with more information on that. I'm actually deciding whether or not to buy one really soon because I've
Really
been saving up. So
nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
that's awesome.
definitely get back and we'll have to try that sometime.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. But yeah, I mean, I think VR can only go up, like you were saying, and
exactly.
it's already come really far.
Yeah. I feel like the thing that will push it over is just another triple A title,
Mhm.
because one came out, Half-Life Alex,
Yeah.
and that I heard is like one of the best VR experiences you can ever have,
Mhm.
like right now in the market, or like the Walking Sinners.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's been great catching up with you, Joey,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
being able to talk about this. If you can get me on another one, I'd totally be down to join another
100%.
episode with you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Okay. I just have work soon. So,
Oh, yeah. All right. No problem, man. With
yeah.
that, thank you, Ethan, for joining me today. And thank you all for watching and listening. This has been Tarzan's Treehouse, and we will see you next time.